Good morning and welcome. No, actually, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome back. This is our part 2 of the part 1 we did this morning.
Prost.
And we're going to talk a bit more about order and chaos in this video, because the last one just abruptly ended because my phone wasn't charged long enough. It's a bit difficult to always get some electricity here in the middle of nowhere. To start off, we're just gonna continue with that concept of the Logos, the Word of God. And you had an idea about the incarnation.
Yes, I think you were just busy getting going on a very pleasant little tangent, and I can't recall exactly. So, just for context, we carried on with this part 2 this morning, but we were not aware that the video had cut off. So we're trying to supplement it now, and I think where I wanted to link into you was on the point of us seeing Christ as the reasoning principle, but not to the extent that chaos is done away with. Like, I think in our theology, we often gravitate quite naturally towards the ordered side of things, you know? Probably why most beginners, theological students' favorite subjects is systematics, because everything fits very neatly into a little box, you know? But I think in the incarnation, we see something really beautiful about God not doing away with chaos and superimposing divine order on everything, but rather God immersing himself into the chaos of our lives. And I think there's a pastoral comfort there as well for us, because, well, I think we mentioned this, I can't remember whether it was in the beginning or in the end. Chaos and order, neither of them can dominate the other, or totally dominate to the extent of eliminating the other. They have to coexist somehow. And so it is in our lives as well. So I find it immensely fitting and immensely comforting that God had thought it well to come and be with us in the chaos of our lives, and remains with us in the chaos of our lives.
Yes. And then you have to think about how it's a big story, of course. How just as nature has a kind of a play working together, it's a drama, and we really saw that. You get the drama that God is basically orchestrating, and where the concept of God's incarnation, or the incarnation of Christ, is so important is actually exactly in this big story, because it's not a story where God is just watching from above and seeing what's going to happen, but it's actually that thing which keeps us going has been in our midst, and is still in our midst. And we call this a theodrama, which I think you know a bit more about than me.
Well, that was a beautiful little side, not a sidetrack, but a beautiful lead into our next point. Yes, I think that how you have referred to the interplay between chaos and order here, encountered in nature, was by referring to the big picture. You know, if you focus in too closely on any of the little things, either on the ordered side of it or on the chaotic side of it, you can easily become distracted, and I think also easily become confused. But if you keep it in tension, in light of the bigger picture, then it begins to carry a certain weight of meaning, I would say. And I would then definitely go on to refer to Hans Urs von Balthasar, the great Catholic theologian, with his concept of the Theodrama, because I think that's exactly how our our own dealing with chaos and order also finds a some sort of a resolution. Like you mentioned that we have the order and chaos out there in creation, but then we also have the order and chaos in here,
as we mentioned in part 1.
yeah, as we mentioned in part 1. But I think that it's easier to deal with the chaos out there sometimes than it is to deal with the chaos and its conflict with order in here. Though I think we have something of a, could you say,
But you said it's easier to deal with the conflict we have in here.
no.
Oh,
I think it's easier to
outside,
deal
yes,
with the
yes,
conflict
yes,
out
exactly.
there. But a good,
Sorry.
honest reaction that. I think there's gonna be a clear frown in the video there now. But no, von Balthasar would. I think you mentioned that it's easier for us to deal with the chaos and order inside, when we look at it as though it were a story.
Yeah.
And then we get to the Theodrama where von Balthasar
Exactly.
paints this beautiful picture of us as being little parts in God's great drama that's unfolding.
Yes.
And I mean, in a drama, at the end of the day, I think you see this interplay between chaos and order most clearly, because the playwright, if he's a good playwright, then he gets the balance just right between chaos and order, danger and safety,
Yes.
sadness and happiness, comedy and tragedy. The greatest playwright gets the perfect balance and hits the spot just right. And I think so it is with the Theodrama. God's great story of reality is unfolding, and in it we have a concrete part to play. I don't think it is always the part that we would have liked. The temptation is always there to revert to the ego drama, to turn in upon ourselves and just focus on our denying reality, our denying all the chaos, or our denying all the order, and just gravitating to whatever we would like to gravitate towards. But that's a terribly boring story. That one in which I'm the the star, the director, the cast, the stage right, everything.
Or it might even be dramatic and entertaining to put yourself in the middle or at the center of the universe. But at some point, in my experience at least, you'll notice that you're getting weary, or you just can't keep on going if you put yourself at the center. At some point, we really do just have to care for other people and for what's out there. And of course, the biggest care we can give for people, I think, is when we look at Christ. When we follow Christ and carry our own cross, that's when we are actually really, being good role players. But not in a sense that we have to do it, but that it's actually really meaningful and with good reason to do it. To be good role players.
I think one could even conceive of the picking up of the cross as the taking up of the cross as the taking up of your role. You know, the role in which you've been cast. It might be a small and insignificant role. It might be large and more exciting and more adventurous. Who knows? But there's a role to play there. And in the big picture, it's part of a marvelous, beautiful story. There's actually something that I can latch on here regarding an excellent play, A Man for All Seasons, about Thomas More, a play by Robert Bolt.
I don't know.
But before getting there, I first wanted to throw the ball in your direction. This is a rugby expression for you foreigners that might be listening. On the note of, yes, it helps us to conceive of chaos and order in our lives as well, in light of a story. But it still isn't easy to deal with the chaos that we don't want. Or it isn't easy to deal with the lack of order where we so desperately desire it.
That's true. Yeah, and then when we get that, we try and control ourselves or control something. And actually that just makes me think of how people often can sometimes get fearful or anxious, and then they won't necessarily show it, but they'll try and hide it by quickly going and doing something, or quickly controlling other people, or or withdrawing or something like that. It isn't always that clear what we're really feeling, but at many times I've noticed that I myself also feel some kind of chaos happening, stirring inside me, a storm stirring inside me, and then I don't want it to come out. So I basically just try and hide it and repress it. And that's where I think you have to have some kind of you have something that carries you through that. And as we've now said, it's basically that story that we have in our head of what God is actually doing with us. That we need that to carry on, I guess. And
Definitely.
And to remind us that we shouldn't necessarily always be in control. We don't need to be our own gods.
Indeed, indeed. And I think, again, as you mentioned, by being pointed towards towards Christ on the cross, I think there we see most clearly the central place in which almost unintelligible chaos has in the life of the Christian. We can't shy away from it. We cannot deny its reality. We have to, in the imitation of Christ, I think, take up the cross, get up the mountain, suffer what we must, deal with this uncomfortable interplay between chaos and order, all the while knowing and trusting that, something beautiful is happening here, even though I might not have the full vantage of it or might not be the greatest contributor to it. Something beautiful is happening.
Exactly. Because we're not the main characters. Christ is the main character.
Yes, exactly. It's the Theodrama. So you might have heard a grumbling in the background. That is my mum and dad, whom we will be having a sundowner with momentarily. But perhaps in conclusion, I can quickly mention that story of Thomas More.
Yeah.
So Thomas More, a famous English saint at the time of, I think it's Henry the Eighth, who broke away from the Catholic Church and forcefully converted all previous Catholics to Anglicans. And he had a chancellor, first chancellor, Sir Thomas More, who refused to go ahead with this. And the play is about him, A Man for All Seasons. And it's an excellent play. I can strongly recommend it to everyone. It's actually a quote from that book that has inspired our select whiskey, Grants, because the motto of Grants is stand fast.
Yes.
And Thomas More has an excellent quote right at the end of the book about our having to stand fast a little. In any case, throughout the course of this play, the main character, one could say, is obviously Sir Thomas More, and his great trial between remaining faithful to his faith and his mitigating the, how could you say, matters of politics in the realm so that it benefits the most people in the best way. But throughout this story, though he's the main character and obviously the king is a massive one and a bunch of others, the antagonists, etc., play massive roles and colorful roles. All the while, the storyteller is the steward or the boatman or the butler or the fisherman on the docks. It's the same character picking up all of these very, very menial roles. And he really does have quite a boring role in this drama. He does nothing spectacular, but he tells the story. And without him, nothing in this entire play would be able to come together. So I've always thought of that as also being something comforting for us. Sometimes we want these massive roles. Sometimes we want the excitement. We want the drama. But in all honesty, there are very many of us who lead simple, seemingly uneventful lives in which a hell of a lot is happening that is pulling this great Theodrama forward as well.
That's great. That's the first time that I've heard this.
And this is actually strange. I mean,
I really like it. It's I think the perfect way to say that basically you don't need to be on one extreme or the other, and I think we often do that nowadays. With so many things, I think polarizing, so many politics polarizing. That's actually, I think it's a good illustration for us to basically sometimes just accept the ordinary life, and see the beauty in that, because we could actually go on long and long about this.
We might have a part 3.
It makes me think about how we sometimes can have so much fun and enjoyment and pleasure, and then suddenly we can just be depressed and
Crash.
pessimistic and everything. And maybe the best way to resist that temptation to be so melancholy, or to basically let ourselves be dragged to one side or the other, we can just be reminded of that balance, that modesty that we can have, even as characters performing our little roles in boring roles.
Sometimes indeed. And so Bishop Robert Barron, a Catholic intellectual, he has also reflected not on this particular drama, but on this concept of the Theodrama, and I think it touches into this play, A Man for All Seasons, with a unifying call that Barron issues. He says that when it comes to our going through this life, our navigating between chaos and order, a very good goal for us is to look to the cross and find our role in the Theodrama.
Yeah.
And play it well.
Yeah.
To the best of our abilities. And I think that's something.
I agree. I totally agree. And I'm sure our listeners also want to be part of that drama.
And I now, looking at the camera, very much hope that piece of elephant dung is not in the camera. It's our anchor. We really are in the middle of the bush here.
And we didn't bring all the equipment we needed.
No, definitely not. But thank you, Tristan. Thank you to our listeners.
Exactly.
Okay. Ik denk het was goed. Tristan.
Wat? Je hebt niet recorder.
Ik niet.